Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Guess what day it is?
What day is it, Mike?
Day. Woo woo. And now you all know how old we are because we still remember that old commercial that was everywhere for a while. But it is Wednesday. Yep. It is Hump Day. It is Swamp Show 2021. And we woke up to a surprise this morning.
We really did wake up to quite a surprise. As you'll all notice, day one of Swamp Show is no longer on our playlist. Want to explain to them why it's gone, Mike?
Yeah, so apparently on day one of Swamp Show, we seized too much of our freedom and we handled firearms during a premiere. And that is one of the two reasons that they gave us. The second reason is that the YouTube censor is upset that I broke off my relationship with his mother. Charlene, it's not you, it's me. Just give me my space and my time and tell your son to put our YouTube video back where it was. Right.
Moving on.
Let's recap Wolverine Slide.
All right, so guys, you wanted Wolverine Slide back. We are bringing it back. As we talked about yesterday, we have the Glock 19 slides coming first. Those are going to be in the battle-worn gray and the black nitride finish. We also have the Glock 34 slides coming in a very limited number. We're going to let you know when those are going live for sale later in the week. Be ready. This is a very limited run. They are truly going to go out quick.
That's
if you want one, be ready for it, okay? We need to see, are these going to be a line that you want us to put in permanently? If these things vanish, it's coming back.
Yep. We'll know that we need to make more.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hoping for. So today is Dot Day. We're going to talk about dots, and we're going to recap. We're going to start with recapping sort of the history of the red dot optics that Swamp Fox has made so far, because some of our fans, a lot of you guys that are watching this, you already know what we have. You've already got the scopes. You've got them on your pistols and stuff. But there are new people who haven't seen us before, who are just now finding out who Swamp Fox is. So we're going to do a quick recap. So our first generation, the very first product that we made 3 years ago, was that little guy, Kingslayer.
Yep. Small single lens micro reflex sight with a 6061 aluminum body. And the thing that people really loved about this, aside from how tough it was on the inside, was it has a side loading battery. So you don't need to remove it in order to change your battery out and then have to re-zero your optic. People loved this. This little guy took off like crazy.
The technology's moving so fast that it's hard to remember that 3 years ago, just the fact that Kingslayer held zero and wouldn't break on a reciprocating slide application was kind of a big deal in its price point. You had the really expensive stuff that everybody already knew worked, but cost as much as your gun. Then you had the eBay junk that, everybody knew it was sort of airsoft grade and the lens is going to fly out after the first couple of mags.
In all fairness, I wouldn't have put that stuff on my airsoft gun when I was still airsofting.
Right. So just the fact that Kingslayer was at the price point that it was and would hold zero and work was by itself a great place for Swamp Fox to start out. That was our first generation. That was our first try. And then, of course, its bigger brother was the Liberator.
Yep. So if you wanted something that was a little more compatible with a carbine, Liberator fills that micro dot optic set. In fact, it uses the industry standard micro dot footprint. So it is a duty set carbine optic. And it was filling a role. And people loved him, especially with the circle dot reticles. Right. It was a big deal.
Right. So you could get these with circle dot reticles in red or green. But the downside was battery life. It was generation 1 battery life.
Yeah. Driving that reticle emitter was rough. It did not do fun things to the milliamperage on those batteries.
Right. So Kingslayer was rated at 1,500 hours of battery life, which is in 2021, it's not that great.
Yeah.
At the time, it was pretty much industry standard. But again, we're talking about how fast this technology's come so quickly. Liberator was rated at 3,000 hours of battery life because it uses a bigger battery, CR 2032 instead of 1632.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was the beginning. That was the genesis of Swamp Fox. Those were the first products that we had for sale way back in the day. Where do we go from there?
Well, from there, we had to go to something tougher and technology advanced. We were able to improve both the quality of our emitters and the draw on the battery. That took us to Liberty and Justice. We upgraded to a 7075 body. We're still using an industry standard RMR footprint, so if you have something set up for an RMR, they'll bolt right on, no problem. The Liberty is running a really large window, and that wasn't good enough for us. So we went to the Justice with a 27 millimeter wide window. These things are flying off the shelves with competitors. They love that big window for tracking target to target.
Yeah. It's I'm glad we did both.
Yeah.
You know, the 22 millimeter Liberty, for me, it carries a little bit better. It's a little bit easier to conceal. I think that's probably more popular for the law enforcement guys.
Yeah.
And then Justice, the range queen guys, the competitors, the hunters, they're all going to the big window.
A number of guys have even been running Justice on something like a 45-degree mount or even our hostile engagements.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic. So, so Liberty and Justice are our second generation. And because of the new emitters, they are a 3 MOA red dot, no circle dots on these. Because of the nature of the emitter.
Yep.
But in exchange for getting rid of the circle dots, we were able to get a real-world battery life of about 1 year.
Yeah.
And that's a real-world battery life. We need to have like a serious, honest talk back and forth between you and me about battery life. This is kind of something that I'm known to rant on. But our battery life estimations, everything that you hear us say today is real-world. It's based on real-world use and at reasonable battery levels. There are other companies out there who put a 50,000 hour battery life on the side of the box, and people who are shopping based on comparing specifications, they look at the side of the box and they go, well, that one's going to last for 5 years and yours only lasts for 1 year.
But there's no information given as to what conditions are supposed to give you that 50,000 hours.
Right, and there's a lot of variables from brand to brand of battery, from battery to battery within the same brand. There are good batteries and there are crappy batteries within the same batch. Temperature variations, if it's very hot, if it's very cold, if you're like somewhere in Denver where it's hot one day and cold the next day, that all affects battery life and how you use it. Some people will carry around and they want max blast brightness
all
for
the
their
time.
eyes all the time. If it's on their hip, it's on setting 10, damn it. And some guys are like that. Some guys are okay at setting 5 or 6, and that's just the way that their eyes perceive the light. So when we say, 1 year battery life, we pretty much are covering our bases going, no matter what happens, more or less, if you change it out on your birthday, if you change it on a Christmas, you should be good. And that kind of covers the vast majority of all of those variables.
Yeah.
And it's not an idealized, in lab conditions on setting 3, which nobody uses in real life, we think it might go to 50,000 hours, and we're going to put that on the side of the box and promise it to everybody. That's not how we roll. We're trying to give you guys real advice on which one of these things do you want to carry on your hip to defend your life, or a law enforcement, situation. We're not going to BS you on this stuff. No. Your life depends on it. When we did Liberty and Justice and we did Sentinel, we had to step our game up to understand that people are going to be trusting their lives to these units, and this ain't tinker toy stuff. I take this stuff extremely seriously, and that's why I rant about battery life.
And technology is still increasing. As soon as we have the ability to give it more, we're going to.
Of course. Why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
So
now, Liberty and Justice are awesome. They are a little on the largish side. I mean, they're full-size, micro, red dot sights. What if I have a smaller pistol?
Right. The pistol's got smaller.
Yeah. So especially with the advent of the slimline high capacity, I think that's the term people are using these days.
The 1.5 stack.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So what do we have for that? Right. Where did we go when we wanted to be smaller, svelter, sleeker, easier to conceal?
So some of you guys already know the new hotness for last year, for 2020, was putting red dots on slimline slides, single stack guns. My little Canik Elite SC, Glock came out with a 43X and the 48 MOS, and they all pretty much use the same footprint, which is the RMSC footprint. And we knew that we had to come up with something that would fit on those guns. Mm-hmm. And that became Sentinel A for automatic brightness adjustment and Sentinel M for manual brightness adjustment.
Yep. And that gave people the choice. You could either run the Sentinel A, which is essentially a set it and forget it, install it, zero it, and visit it 1.5 years, 2 years down the line. Or you could have that precise control using the Sentinel manual type, and now you could actually game it. And if you're going into a dark area, click it down a few times. If you're going into a bright area, click it up, whatever you wanted. You were in control, and you could pick your poison.
Yeah. So Sentinel A was the one that we sort of knew we could pull off, and nobody. This isn't public information yet, but I'll tell the story. Sentinel M, we weren't sure if it was going to make it or not. You know, you've seen some prototype stuff. We've mentioned things in the videos this week about the sort of graveyard of ideas that didn't make it, and we honestly weren't sure if M was going to be, if we could sandwich all of the stuff that we needed, the shake and wake and the buttons and everything, into that footprint size. The whole dang red dot's the size of my thumb.
Exactly.
Right? So A was kind of the safe bet. We can have an automatic brightness adjust. It's instantly adjusting. It's not like the old tech where you pull it out of your holster, you get your sight picture, and you watch the dot get brighter. No. It's instantly changing. And you know, with the 2032 battery, it's underneath. There's no room to do a side tray. There's no room to do a top feed. It has to be sort of sitting on top of the battery, which means you have to remove the dot to re-zero when you change your battery out. But we were able to put in the CR 2032 battery, the larger of the battery class, and so you at least have, you know, up to around 2 years of real-world battery life out of that CR 2032 before you need to start thinking about swapping it out. And when you re-zero, it's not really that bad, right?
No, when you take one of those off and put it back on, as long as you're installing it in a similar manner, it's going to be very close. You still need to confirm your zero, but if you do need to make an adjustment, you're maybe looking at utilizing 1 to 3 rounds, if that. Yes. You should be able to get it done in a matter of minutes and then just go right back to practice.
It's not like starting from scratch every time you swap the battery out. It should be pretty close. Yeah. So we've got Kingslayer, Liberator is Gen 1. We've got Liberty and Justice and Sentinel are Gen 2. But then what happened to the Liberator? It got kind of left behind for a while.
Well, Liberator was one of those things that we had to try and figure out, well, what are we going to do to this? I mean, it does its job already. It is a carbine compatible, shotgun compatible, Kalashnikov compatible.
Right, it has a lot going for it.
Yeah, we just wanted to make it better. So what we've done is we've utilized the same enhanced LED technology in Liberty and Justice and Sentinel, and we've updated it into Liberator. The upside that gave us was a greatly increased battery life. How much did we go from and to when it came to the hours that Liberator 2 is giving us now?
Okay, so here is Liberator 1, and that's a 3,000-hour battery life, real world.
Yep.
And then on the 1301 here for home defense is a Liberator 2 with shake and wake, 2 MOA dot instead of a 3 MOA dot, and you get 10,000 hours of battery life.
Yeah.
So it's over triple the battery life of the first generation.
Big increase, and especially adapting the shake and wake technology into it.
Right, that's going to help boost it even more.
Yeah, you can have your home defense tool, whether that's a carbine like I prefer or a gauge like you are as you follow the gospel of the gauge. The upsides to it are you have it ready to go in whatever condition, either in a safe or if you have someone home all the time with the way things are now, it's just sitting there ready to be used. When you pick it up, it will wake up, go back to the brightness setting you had it on, and it is ready for you to use if you have to defend yourself.
Yeah. Something goes bump in the night, it's one less thing to think about. I don't have to think about where are the brightness buttons, which one's brightness up and which one's brightness down. Forget it. I just yank it out of the safe, yank it off the wall, and it's right where I left it.
Yep.
And it didn't draw any power while it was sitting there. So, you know, if I go a couple months without shooting my shotgun, shame on me. But if I went a couple months without shooting my shotgun, I wouldn't suck up any battery life. No. It would just sit there for 2 months. And then as soon as I yank it off the wall, bam, now I'm eating battery again, but at a rate of 10,000 hours at a medium setting.
No, it's a really good increase. And just as Liberator 1 did, Liberator 2 is still going to come with both of the included mounts in the package. So you're going to get the carbine height, absolute co-witness mount.
We're not touching it.
In the box. You're also going to get the low mount that allows you to utilize it on everything from shotguns, higher comb firearms like a Kalashnikov, an FAL, things like that. You can also use it on pistols that happen to use a 1913 mount, like this Ruger Mark IV over here. Absolutely love it. That thing is so much fun to shoot, especially running like one of those low-profile plate racks with the little baby plates. It's like cheating. It's so much fun. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to track the dot compared to irons. You know, I'm like, oh man, my recoil control is great with a 22 and a red dot. Ooh, you know,
that anticipation
awesome.
flinch went away real easy.
Yeah, it's like cheat mode on that Ruger. Yeah. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's great. So
that is Liberator 2, guys.
Yeah.
That's going to come out in April.
Yeah.
It's right around the corner. They're already being built.
Yep. No, we're really excited for it. It's a great tool, and the changes that we've made in the pistol dots are driving us to continue looking for newer, better tech.
Basically, all the stuff that we invented for these is now in Liberator 2.
Yep. Now, when we invented that, it also gave us some ideas to do something outside the mailbox, could we say? Yeah, I know. I had to do it. Now,
let's talk about it. It's the elephant in the room. They've been looking at it the whole time.
They've been staring at it.
Center.
All right, we were teasing you guys all this week with it sitting back there on the wall. You asked about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to introduce you to Kraken.
Release the Kraken.
Kraken is a closed emitter system, nitrogen purged, with a 7075 T6 aluminum body and an internal 1632 battery. This is side mounted, so you screw the cap off, swap your battery out, put the cap back on, and you're back and shooting. No change in zero, no issues with having to get everything set up again. You're set. Now, people are going to make obvious comparisons between Kraken and another closed emitter optic.
Right.
We have
there are a couple other ones out on the market already.
Yeah, we have tremendous respect for those. Those guys absolutely rock it. We wanted ours. Now, the benefits.
We invented ours on our own. We didn't copy them.
Yes, to the point where we made our own footprint. Yeah. Now, the upside to Kraken is it is an RMR-sized footprint. What that means is if you have a slide that uses an RMR optic on it, Kraken will also fit.
Right out of the box.
Yep. Don't have to have anything remilled. If it uses RMR, it will use Kraken without an issue.
Now, it's going to come with 2 RMR plates in the box, right?
Yes.
So why don't you explain the story on those? Because even in development, that was something that confused me for a while. Like, wait, why are we doing 2 plates for the same RMR footprint? What's up with that?
Yeah. So historically, there have been 2 different thought processes behind integrating the RMR footprint. One is essentially a flat top cut. So you actually hog out the metal in the slide, you drill 2 holes, and then you thread those holes for the screws, mount your optic on, run the screws down through the body of the optic, and the actual front and rear shelf of that slide now is your recoil boss. Right. The other version is you have the metal come up into the screw holes of the optic, and the inside of those pegs are threaded.
You got the 2 pegs that have the screws going through them, but they stick up higher.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, neither of those are necessarily a bad idea. The complication we ran into is, again, there's no standardization for how tall those pegs are, which means trying to figure out how a set thickness plate is going to react to those, it was a nightmare. So we figured out as many of the heights of the posts as we could, and we made a plate that embraces as many of them as we could.
Right.
Now,
so many permutations on this.
Everyone wants to get their own version out there, and it made things a little complicated. So we're working with what we can. Now, we did run into some screw length issues. So what we're going to do is we are including extra long screws so that you can trim them to fit your slide. If you're comfortable trimming them yourself, go for it.
Get the Dremel out.
And your iPro, please. Gun nerd coming out. Or take it to a gunsmith, they'll trim it down, get everything mounted up for you, and you're set. But the difficult part, which is the plate height, we take care of that.
Yeah. So if you have an RMR footprint like my G26 there, that's the first type you talked about.
That's a custom cut.
That's a custom cut. Hey, Matt Edom. My buddy Matt cut that for me, and it's just flat on the top. So there's a plate that works for that one. Here's the Combat Master. It's the other type. It's got the posts in there, and it also mounts on that. And these 2, that's actually one generation of prototype and the second generation of prototype. This one here is actually closer to the final. Why don't you talk about some of the torture testing you did on this?
Yes.
I want to know, is it going to be tough?
Yes. So this is the last surviving prototype that we did of Kraken.
That's our museum piece.
And when I say surviving, I do mean like that's the last one that you can recognize as an optic. The others are currently piles of material. And that's because we wanted to find where is the breaking point on this. So we did a lot of drop testing. We did a lot of one-handed manipulation racking. And I also did what I lovingly referred to as a hammer drill, where I actually took a slide and frame and used it as a hammer against a 2x4 until there were chunks of wood flying all over the place. We wanted to find out, what is this going to be able to hold up to? Short of you actually taking a ball peen hammer to this, it's going to stand up to pretty much everything you could feasibly throw at it in an everyday carry situation or even duty use. Yeah. The reasons we wanted to test this thing so hard is if you have this on a duty holster on your hip and you have to button hook around a corner during an entry and you slam into that door jamb, you need to make sure that what you're going to aim with on your sidearm is still there and doing its job. So we beat the living daylights out of them.
This is the toughest optic that we have ever made.
Yep.
The official G-Shock rating for it is 1,500 Gs.
Which is pretty darn good. When you consider that the reciprocating slide is going to impart not only one, but two recoil impulses when it hits rearward and goes forward, this makes a big deal. And throughout all the live fire testing we did, all the shock table testing we did, and all the beating that we put into these things, they held zero.
Yeah. Tell them about the construction, the glass inside. That's kind of interesting to me.
That was the one thing that we did have failing, and that was one of the waterproof lenses up front. If it hit at just the right angle, it might crack that lens. So we went to a new material. We're doing a tempered glass lens as opposed to just a standard plate glass lens. All of them are still fully multi-coated. And it has, as of so far, held up pretty well. We're still in the middle of testing. Like Mike said, this one is very close to what the final product might be, but we still have a couple of tweaks we're going to be making. But it's doing really well.
Glass setup. There's a glass piece in the back, there's a glass piece in the front, and then there's a glass piece in the middle.
Yeah, so the glass piece in the middle is what is actually catching and reflecting the dot being emitted. And then the front two lenses are there not only to allow us to nitrogen purge it so that weather isn't going to be an issue. One of the reasons I prefer a closed emitter optic is everyone was worried about the whole idea of when you're running an open emitter optic. Well, what if a raindrop lands on there? I'm not going to be able to aim. Well, one, if you're in the middle of shooting and it can be rained on, I'm fairly certain it's going to be hard for a raindrop to just sit there and completely
flies off. Yeah.
Exactly. And if it's not being shot at that moment, you're having it concealed or it's pointing down, it's not a worry. I mean, after years of people running hard their dot-equipped pistols, it is not an issue. Now, one thing that we can run into that can be an issue is something like a dirt occlusion or mud, something along those lines. If that does get in there, that's going to be more difficult to clean out.
This is a lot easier to clean up.
I have flat surfaces I can wipe with a rag and I can go back to shooting.
You don't have to worry about digging in where the emitter is and trying to clear up the emitter.
Right. Different tool, different toolbox. We wanted something that was going to be easier maintenanced for people out in the field. As long as you have a soft enough cloth, you can just wipe the thing clean and you're off and running again. So it's a lot easier for people to maintain as well.
Let's talk about battery life. That's a big question. We haven't had that yet.
Why would people want to know about battery life?
Can't imagine.
Yeah. So we did have one person ask, is the battery life longer than a month? Yes, it is longer than a month. In fact,
you know who you are.
Yes. On setting 5, we're getting about 4,000 hours right now.
Yeah. So on a medium setting, 4,000 hours, that's about 6 months if it was running full time. But
Correct.
Because they're shake and wake, again, you're not gonna actually be able to run it for 6 months straight.
You're getting chunks of time back as it's at rest.
Every time you have it in the safe because you're asleep at night, every time it's in the nightstand or whatever, every time it's sitting still for more than 4 minutes, you're not sucking up any battery life.
Yep.
So we're still testing things out. We're still, making sure there's nothing that's on the side of the box yet because we haven't even done the boxing for these yet.
I'm not done breaking these.
Yeah, but we're thinking that this should be, again, close to 1 year of real-world battery life for most users in most circumstances, with most weather and most brightness settings, most. It's going to be about a year. And honestly, why test it any further than that? Just change out your battery every year. You don't have to re-zero it. Battery compartment's right there on the side.
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan that we were able to do that, and it has we did have some people that we were using for testing, and at first they looked at it and went, whoa, this guy looks a little chunky. I mean, this is a big metal box on top of my slide.
Toast 2 pieces of bread at a time.
Or 1 Belgian waffle. Now, the funny part is when you actually shoot with it, it doesn't bother you. No. Even though I first saw the render, I'm like, whoa, that's pretty big. I took it out to the range. I started shooting. I don't see it. I don't see the housing as I'm shooting anywhere near like I thought I would. And in fact, I find it faster to present and shoot with Kraken.
You were saying it helps you index, right?
Yeah. As I'm coming up and I'm bringing everything to my eyes to drive out, I'm able to bracket my target in the center of the box and simply snap it forward. And when I come home, because I'm running that tube effect, I'm able to snap up on target and my dot's right there when I come to it. So personally, I find it fast.
Nice. One thing that I don't want to forget to mention, we do have 10 brightness settings in this for the law enforcement guys and for the hunting guys. This is our first pistol dot with 2 night vision compatible settings.
Yes, the lowest
Finally
2
got it in
settings.
there.
Yep, the 2 lowest settings are night vision compatible.
Yeah. You want to tell them about the clicks?
We put clicks in. So for everyone out there that likes that tactile assurance of, all right, I did move my 0, we have 1 minute of angle clicks.
1 MOA per click. We actually made it happen.
Yep.
We wanted it to go into these. You know, we're talking about
to
baby
keep them
steps.
to keep them that slim, fitting it in there just
another
wasn't
failure
feasible.
point, man. It was one more thing to go wrong, and
Yeah.
they were mushy anyway. You know, we couldn't make it happen for Liberty and Justice and Sentinel. It wasn't. You know, the technology was not mature.
Yeah.
You know, and now we finally gotten to the point where we've got 1 MOA clicks in a pistol dot, and they don't suck.
No, they feel great, actually. So, yes.
It's huge. You guys have no idea how hard that is to pull off.
Yeah. And in fact, the thing that was really surprising was we wanted this to be really flexible on what it could mount on. It's why we went with the RMR footprint. But we will let you know, because of the way this thing has to mount, we can't put screws down through the top, so it has a side clamp. In order to make that work, it does sit a little bit taller. Now, what that also meant was if we wanted to be able to get it on other platforms besides RMR, now we were going to have to stack plates on top of plates, and it was just going to become a mess. This is actually what got us into the pistol plate accessories.
We talked about some pistol plates yesterday, but Kraken is really the genesis of us going, we really have to get into the pistol plate business.
We couldn't figure out a way around it, so we decided, fine, we're just going to make our own. So for Kraken, it is going to come starting. You can order individually from 5 different plates. So what that means is if you are running a SIG P320, M17, M18, Legion series.
The ones with the iron sights on them.
Yep. A SIG X5 for you competition guys out there that love that platform, like this dude.
I'm not the only guy that has that. We didn't just make this for me.
Yeah. No.
But I love my X5.
Glock MOS. MOS guys, you are going to be able to mount Kraken to your MOSs without having to stack your plates.
That's huge.
Yep. And because there's no way to get around it, acro guys. If you are running an acro-equipped slide like the Brownells
Like the
acro
Brownells,
slides,
cut for the acro footprint on top.
yep, we are going to have an adapter plate for that. So if you want to run Kraken on your slide, we've got you. And then the last one is your dudes.
My guys.
Yep, you built yourself such a great relationship with these dudes because
them, man.
they just kept making it better. They kept striving. It actually kind of reminds me of us.
Yeah, well, yeah, Canik guys. Once again, I mean, I think the guns. This little guy won me over. The guns are so good for what you pay. The guys who are using them are really shooting. They're not. They're
That's how we know they're good because they put a lot of rounds through those.
They
things.
really do. The Canik guys. They're just rabid fans.
Yeah.
I love being part of it. So Canik guys, full size TP9. Don't worry about which of the factory plates is going to work. We're making the plate. All of these plates are 7075. They're beautifully machined. They're well scienced out. It took a ton of work. But if you got a Canik that's optics ready, full size, you can put a Kraken on it.
Yep.
And it's going to look badass.
It really does. No, I'm really glad we were able to do this, and I'm glad it started us down this road. It made a big difference in us being able to get our products out there to the people that want them.
Yeah, guys, the amount of work that has gone into we're a company that's in year 3. July 4th of this year, it starts year 4 for us. We're in our 3rd year of operations, and we've gone from the Kingslayer to the Kraken here coming out soon. In 3 years. I mean, we're working our butts off, guys.
Yep.
The amount of technological advancement that is represented in what you've seen in this video, the amount of work that it represents is just hard to wrap your brain around.
And that's one of the reasons that we still need your guys' help. We're doing these 5 plates to start. They're going to be available for individual order for your platforms, but we need to know, what else should we look at? What other platforms do we want to embrace with Kraken?
What pistol do you have that you want to put Kraken on?
Yeah, we need to know down in the comments, what are you wanting us to make this available to work with, so that we can judge where we need to put that interest and that effort to make additional conversion plates.
Yep. Now, I bet they think that the video's about over. All the big reveals are done. Nothing else left to talk about.
I mean, this was pretty cool, but would you like to shatter that illusion for them? This is big.
I can't wait. I got to get psyched up for it. You guys have asked. You've demanded. I've gotten emails. I've gotten phone calls. I've seen it on Facebook. I've seen it on Instagram. In June of 2021, Liberty, Justice, Sentinel, Kraken when it comes out, Liberator 2, they're all going to be available with green illumination. That's why it's not red dot day, it's dot day, because it's not just red dots anymore, it's green dots, and they're super bright.
Yeah.
And the battery life is better than it is with the red ones.
Yes, we're actually able to get a little bit better battery life out of the greens, and it's fantastic. And one of the things I thought was really cool was, for those of the people out there shooting with astigmatisms, some people have found it actually easier to sight in with the greens.
I see more of a round dot with the green than I do with the red.
Yeah, we're not guaranteeing that to you, but a lot of the guys here in the office...
Sample size of one dude.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, a lot of the guys that we've talked to, they're like, yeah, I can shoot a green a little easier than a red. So we did it. It took us a little bit, but yes, we have green.
You guys were asking. We're like, we're working on it. We can't promise anything. We're not sure. And you know how it is. Like, I don't want to promise something, and then it turns out that it wasn't good enough, right? And we got to wait another year or something. So I'm not going to say, well, yeah, sure. We've been working on it for 6 months. I mean, you know, we try to be honest, but I got to keep that a little bit close to the vest. So now it's real. It's available in June, and you guys are going to love them. Yeah. Yeah, it's super cool.
All the test ones that we have here right now are super crisp, super clean. I'm really happy with the way they turned out.
It's cool.
Yep.
Let's do a giveaway.
All right, guys. So tonight we are giving away a Liberty and Ironsides with an HE mount and a swag pack. So
morale patches and
hats, yeah.
Right.
So
Liberty and Ironsides, put them on that HE mount.
Yep. Everything you need.
Have a new lid on us.
Tonight's winner is Jake Schoenard. Jake.
Chouinard. Jake Schoenard.
Yes, you are going to be receiving an email from us. Congrats, dude.
Yeah, it's yours, man. Looking forward to seeing what you do with it.
Yeah, by all means, please send, hit us up on social media. Show us what you guys do with these.
Yeah, and you know what? We're not done yet. For those of you that have watched all the way to the end of this video, like we asked you to, and you're still here, we're going to do a flash sale tonight.
Yep.
All in-stock red dots, including the Liberator, Kingslayer, Liberty, Justice, Sentinel, all of them. If it's in stock on our website, use the coupon code SWAMP.21. SWAMP.21, and that's going to pull 25% off until midnight tonight. That's all. You got about 5 hours left.
Yep.
Go get them.
Yeah, have at it, guys.
Yeah. I don't want emails tomorrow going, hey, can you get me the... No, I'm not going to get you the deal tomorrow. It's a flash sale. It's only for the guys that stayed to watch until the end of this video. Go get it. Swamp.21 will get you 25% off any red dot on our website that's in stock right now.
Yep. Mike, this has been great. This has been some awesome news. I'm super excited to see how the green dots do, and Kraken is just still impressing me to this day. I can't wait for these things to hit the market.
We've had this, secret for so long. It's like a relief off my shoulders to finally be able to put the name out there.
Not just that. I've been watching you stress over the whole green thing, trying to make sure you say dot optics instead of red dots. Has been great.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us tonight. We are going to be back tomorrow with rifle scopes and LPVOs.
Yeah, you're not going to want to miss that one. We got big news.
We have really big news.
All right.
Guys, have a great evening.